Hello everyone, welcome to Code with Master. So in this tutorial, we're actually going to talk about the Singleton design pattern in Java. So I've taken up this, Java Tip Point website where it actually providing some brief explanation about what Singleton design pattern is. So a Singleton pattern it says that just define a class that has only one instance and provides a global point of access to it. So we'll create a only if, so suppose if we have a class and which needs to be called everywhere and we don't need to create multiple instances of it. So in that case we will use this particular design pattern and we'll create one instance of that class and we will reuse it. So that's what we are actually doing here. And there are different types of singleton design pattern, and one is early initialization and one is lazy initialization. So early initialization, it just creates an instance at load time, and lazy initialization, it creates an instance when it is required. So uh, yeah, we will go into it in detail when in a working session. So yeah, it's just a basic explanation of what a singleton design pattern is, and we'll quickly go into how we can develop a singleton design pattern in Java. So let's move over it. So I've created one project, and the name of this project is design pattern, and I've created some hierarchy with the code master, and there's a one package design pattern creation. So it's pretty simple. We are creating such folders because in the next coming tutorial we'll be having multiple design patterns implemented. So we'll keep everything under the same project or under the same folder. So that's why I've created this kind of package structure. Yeah, so I'm going to create a singleton class here. So the context of this before starting with it, I'll just say I'll explain what I'm trying to build. I'm just trying to build a vehicle manager class. It's nothing but a simple class which actually helps us to sell and buy vehicles, and there are no much implementation. We are just building a simple one just to make you guys understand what actually a singleton design pattern is. So I'll start with a class called vehicle manager. Yeah, so I've created this class, and now the first thing when you create a singleton design pattern is that it doesn't have a public constructor. It has only one private constructor which can be accessed from outside. I mean from outside of this class. It's not possible to access a constructor. So that's what we are trying to build here. So I'll start with a private constructor. Yeah, simple as that. So this is a private constructor, and the next thing so we don't have a constructor, so how are we going to access this particular class? So that's the question. So for that, we have to create a method which has global access to it. So we'll create a static method which can be called from anywhere, right? So I'll explain as I go. Okay, so this is a public function, public static, and what it returns, it's actually returning an instance of the same thing, the same class, which is vehicle manager, and we'll name the function as get instance. So this is the function which acts as a point of global access for this particular class. So now what should happen in this particular function? That's the next thing that we need to consider. So since this is a singleton class, right, and the meaning of singleton is we'll have only one instance of it, so we'll have to create one instance of it, basically instance of this particular class. So we'll start with it. We'll create a private um, static vehicle manager instance, which I'll name it as instance itself, and initially it is given as instance, right? And sorry, I'm giving it as a null value. Now inside this method, so this is a method which all other classes will call. Okay, so we'll have to return a vehicle manager instance from this method. So the condition is something like this one: if instance equal to null. So which means there is no instance, or this vehicle manager class is called initially only. We haven't called it before, so the instance would be null, right? We haven't initialized it, so instance equal to null. Now we'll have to create an instance of it, instance of this vehicle manager class, and then assign it to the instance variable. So we'll keep it like this one. We'll do new vehicle manager. So what happens now? So when instance is null, then what happens is it will create an instance of this one, this vehicle manager class itself, and we'll provide a return statement here. Instance. So suppose if we are calling this from the second time, then the instance variable wouldn't be null. It will have an instance of vehicle manager in it. So in that case, it will just return the instance variable. So that's what happens. Okay, so this is it. This is just the this is the whole of singleton class. So we have successfully created a singleton class here, and to put in a more context, I'll just explain a little bit more. I'll create a main class and explain how this is going to be called and something like that, so it will be easy for you guys. So just for the sake of it, I'm creating two functions here. Public void by vehicle. Okay, doesn't do anything, it just prints bought vehicle. I'm sorry. And another function which sells vehicle. So the vehicle. This is just some function that we have created to just demonstrate what happens when you call this one, when you call this vehicle manager singleton class. So hope you are clear about this one, why we have created an instance, and the instance is returned as when the instance is null, then we are returning the new instance of it. Otherwise we are actually returning the existing instance of the vehicle manager class. Now let's create one what do you call a main class. We create a main method here, public static void main. So I'm going to create a vehicle manager class. So usually when we create a class, right, when you create a class, we are actually, what we are doing is we are using the new keyword, right? So right now it's not possible, right, since we have only the private constructor, so it's not possible to create an instance of it like this way. So what we will do is we will use the vehicle manager dot get instance method. So right now what happens is it goes inside, it checks whether the instance variable is null or not. If it's null, then it's creating the new vehicle manager instance and it is returning that instance. So right now we have the instance. Now we are going to call the by vehicle method. Okay, and just to show you guys what the instance is, I'm going to print the vehicle manager instance. I'll run it once. So okay, so it printed the bought vehicle method using the the bought vehicle text from the by vehicle method. You can see it here, bought vehicle, and we have printed this vehicle manager class. So you can see it's actually the design pattern creational singleton vehicle manager class. And look at the ID of it, or the instance ID of it. It's 4554617, right? Now we are going to do one more thing. We are going to initialize with, we are just going to create one more instance of it, or we are just going to call the get instance one more time, right? And so I've created vehicle manager dot get instance once more, and I assigned it back to the vehicle manager. Now I'm going to execute the other method, sell vehicle, and also printing the vehicle manager class once again. Now let's run this one. Yeah, let's see. Okay, it print the bought vehicle text and sold vehicle text, and look at the ID of both the vehicle manager instance. It's the same, right? So we are creating only one instance of this vehicle manager class. So yeah, this is what do you call the singleton pattern is. So one of the useful application of this vehicle manager, I mean the singleton design pattern, is somewhere we have multi-threaded environment. We have multiple threads which access the same object, and we just need the same instance everywhere, right? So in that case, we will use a vehicle manager uh, a singleton design pattern. And so if you are using a multi-threaded environment, it's just make sure we are returning the same instance, or we don't have any kind of conflict whenever we are calling the get instance method. So for that purpose, to just make it thread safe, we use the synchronize keyword. So this is applicable only when you are using in a multi-threaded environment. Otherwise, you don't actually need this synchronized keyword. Otherwise, it's fine. Yeah. So this is what it is, and I talked about a early initialization and a lazy initialization. So what we have implemented right now, it's actually a lazy initialization. Why? Because we have actually checked whether the instance is null, and if it's null only, we are creating the instance of it. We are not, by default, we are not creating a instance of this particular class, right? So that's lazy initialization. And what about early initialization? So for early initialization, we will provide this instance as a new vehicle manager whenever we are creating the class itself. So that's early initialization. When we create the class, we are creating the an instance of that particular class. So that's early initialization. And in that case, we don't actually need this particular thing, right? We don't need this instance equal to null check. We can remove that in case of an early initialization. And for lazy initialization, this is the right approach. And most of the time, we actually use this lazy approach because we don't need to create a instance of the class. You know, it's not necessarily right. We just need the class instance when we are trying to access it. So that's the most used scenario for a singleton design pattern. And also this synchronized get instance method. This is also one of the most widely used method. We will use it when we are handling a multi-threaded environment. So yeah, that's it about the singleton design pattern. Hope you all like it. And yeah, if you like it, just like and support this channel. We'll have much more better tutorials coming soon. Yeah, thank you.